Alright my fellow agents, welcome back to the Gaming Brigade, and today my friends we are going to continue the series at the channel where I highlight a handful of builds that I'm currently running in the game, as a lot of you have shown interest in this format. Now this is something that I try to put together every few weeks because it does give me the opportunity to highlight several builds that I've recently posted here at the channel and give you a quick breakdown and revisit them all in one video. Now with that being said, in today's breakdown you're going to see a Bighorn build, a Pestilence build, and a Bluescreen build, and these happen to be builds that I am using on a regular basis. If you have any requests, please let me know in the comment section, because the bottom line is this. Right now in the season, it's kind of a slow time in the game as we make our way towards that season finale, which as of my recording this video is just over 2 weeks away. So the main thing a lot of people are working on are these builds, and again, these are ones I'm currently using and I hope you enjoy them. On that note, I want to take a moment as always and thank you all for your incredible continued support. Please let me know of any other questions you have, and with that being said, let's cut right to the footage. Now for this version of the build, I'm using the gunner specialization, and I've chosen that for the typical reasons. You're going to get some extra armor on kill, you get a reload speed increase, this gives you access to the Banshee Pulse, which definitely will save your ass time and time again. And always remember, regardless of the specialization you may choose, have the proper weapons activated in that weapon skill tree. That way you're getting a 15% weapon damage bonus regardless of which one you're using. Needless to say, my primary weapon for this build is the Bighorn. Like I said a moment ago, I will leave a link to how to get this thing in the video description down below. You can see how much damage this thing does, and for the record, as you can also see on screen, this is at expertise level nothing. Like, I have not upgraded this thing in any way, shape, or form. I've got that assault rifle damage, health damage, and damage to targets out of cover. And as you can see, it has the talent Big Game Hunter. When scoped, it switches to semi-automatic fire mode, dealing 450% weapon damage with each shot. Now, to be honest with you, I do not switch to semi-automatic at all. I'm always focused on that second part of the description, which reads, headshots grant 6% headshot damage, and it stacks up to 25 times. Now, as I said earlier, I am pretty damn terrible sometimes when it comes to hitting those headshots, but even if you're like me and up here and there, the weapon puts out so much damage, you're still going to be shredding everything left and right. Now, as far as my secondary is concerned, I'm using the rock and roll shotgun, as that is going to help me build those stacks for the striker gear set. Now, this is a PvP exclusive that can also be found in named caches. If you do not have it, I recommend using an ACS 12 with a talent close and personal. I can promise you that can still get the job done. Now, moving on to the gear itself, you can see we are running 4 striker, 1 Fenris, and the Memento backpack. Now, starting with the mask, it's the first of 4 pieces of the striker gear set. We're running 4 so we get all of the gear set bonuses. 2 pieces 15% weapon handling, 3 pieces 15% rate of fire, 4 pieces striker's gamble. And with that talent, weapon hits are going to increase total weapon damage by 0.65%. That is going to stack up to 100 times. Next, my friends, we have the body armor. It's the 1 piece of Fenris that is going to give us an extra 10% assault rifle damage, and I'm running with the talent Obliterate. Critical hits are going to increase weapon damage by 1% for 10 seconds. That is going to stack up to 20 times. And one thing you will notice is I'm trying to stack crit hit chance and crit hit damage on every single piece of gear in this build. Next, we have the holster, the knee pads, and the gloves. They are the 3 remaining pieces of the striker gear set. And for those of you out there who may be wondering why I'm not leaning into headshot damage as far as the attributes are concerned, is because I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket, because I miss a lot of headshots, so I kind of want to have a safety net, if that makes sense. Anyway, I'll talk about that a little bit more at the very end of the video. Last but not least, my friends, we have the Memento backpack. I'm using this as a run and gun build, and as you've heard me say in countless build videos over the years, for run and gun builds, this is my favorite backpack to use without a doubt because of its talent kill confirmed. Enemies you kill drop a trophy on death. Collecting trophies provides both a short-term and long-term buff, the first of which is going to scale with the number of core attributes equipped and last for 10 seconds. And you can see you get that weapon damage, bonus armor, skill efficiency. And if you happen to use this as a solo player, you're doing all the killing, so you're picking up those trophies non-stop. As far as my skills are concerned, I'm using the Crusader Shield and the Banshee Pulse. As I said earlier, I do not have any global modifiers active whatsoever. When we scroll over to the numbers, you can see I'm sitting at 40% crit hit chance, 93% crit hit damage, and my headshot damage bonus is at 115%. Remember, those numbers are going to be dependent on not only the gear I have equipped, but having a Shade Watch of level 1000. Hope this helped you out, my friends, and as always, questions, comments, or feedback, please let me know, and I'll do my best to get back to you as quick as I can.
Reinforcements en route. Detecting additional hostile contact.
Now, starting with the specialization, you can see we're using Gunner, and I'm using that for a bunch of different reasons, my friends. First of all, you're going to get some extra armor on kill. You get a reload speed increase. I also like the fact that I can use the Banshee Pulse with this version of the build. This specialization also gives you a rate of fire increase. You also get some extra weapon handling when you are motionless for more than 1 second. And always remember, regardless of the specialization you choose, have the proper weapons activated in your weapon skill tree. That way you're getting a 15% weapon damage bonus regardless of which one you're using. Now, my primary weapon for this build is the Pestilence, and over the last 4 or 5 months, this has become one of my go-to weapons in the game. It is in the general loot pool, so I recommend hitting up Countdown, set your targeted loot to LMGs. The reason it's so effective is because of its talent Plague of the Outcast. It's applied a buff dealing 100% weapon damage over 10 seconds. The stacks up to 50 times. Whenever an enemy dies with this debuff, 100% of the stacks are transferred to a nearby enemy within 25 meters. This gun is an absolute monster, and as you've heard me mention in previous videos, in my opinion, this is one of the best exotic weapons in the game. As far as the secondary and sidearm is concerned, totally up to you, dealer's choice, use whatever you want. Now moving on to the gear itself, you can see I'm running 3 Lengmo, 1 Petrov, 1 Overlord, and the Coyote's Mask, which is what we're starting with. Now this has the Talent Pack Instinct, where you and all your allies are going to gain a crit hit chance and or crit hit damage bonus based on the distance of the last enemy you hit. This is a fantastic mask to use whether you're running solo or in a group. And as we continue on, I want to remind you that every single piece of gear I'm wearing in this build can be found in the general loot pool, and I will talk about that a little bit more at the end of the build breakdown. Now moving on to the body armor, it's the first of 3 pieces of Lengmo, and the reason we're running 3 is because we are targeting that third brand set bonus, which is 30% LMG damage. You'll also notice I'm running the Talent Obliterate. Critical hits increase total weapon damage by 1% for 10 seconds, stacking up to 20 times. One of the best talents in the game. Next, my fellow agents, we have the holster. That is the second piece of Lengmo. And as we continue, I'd like to also point out the fact that some pieces in this build, like the holster, are not maxed out as yet. So always remember, even as you're trying to put together the perfect build, you can put something together in the meantime that can still get the job done. Next, we have the knee pads. They are the Fox's Prayer. We're running these for that middle attribute, 8% damage to targets out of cover. Next, we have the Contractor's Gloves, the 1 piece of Petrov that gives us 10% LMG damage bonus, but the main reason we are using these is for that middle attribute, 8% damage to armor. Last but not least, we have the Backbone Backpack. This is the third and final piece of the Lengmo brand set. It has the talent Perfectly Unstoppable Force. Killing an enemy increases total weapon damage by 7% for 15 seconds, stacks up to 5 times. As far as my skills are concerned, I'm using the Banshee Pulse, and I'm either going to use the Assault Drone or the Defender Drone, depending on if I'm running solo or in a group. In the gameplay footage, you'll see me using the Defender. It does, kind of come in handy here and there. When we take a look at the numbers, you can see I'm sitting at 42.7 crit hit chance, 126.7 crit hit damage. Remember, this is without any global modifiers, and the numbers you're looking at are without any of the bonuses running on Coyote's Mask. And the last thing I'd like to mention, and I say this in every build video I put together, always remember this is just a template. One thing I talk about here at the channel is that you want to try out different variations. I am running Obliterate on the chest. Another really popular version is Glass Cannon because it puts out a ton of damage. It really does. And remember, this is not the hardest hitting build out there. But one thing I try to do here at the channel is highlight builds I use on the regular basis that work for me. Hope you enjoyed this video, my friends, and as always, questions, comments, or feedback, please let me know and I will do my best to get back to you as quick as I can.
How's it going? Perfect. No survivors. All that's left is the agent. Eliminate.
Agent, I need you to kill those cleaners.
You've got to be dead.
Detected.
Could do it.
Now, starting with the specialization, you can see we're using Gunner for this version of the build. We're doing that for a few main reasons. You get some armor on kill, you get a reload speed increase, a rate of fire increase. You also have access to the Banshee Pulse, which is one of the skills that we do have equipped. And as you hear me mention in every build video I post, regardless of the specialization you choose, make sure to have the proper weapons activated in that weapon skill tree. That way you're getting a 15% weapon damage bonus regardless of which one you're using. I say that because people wind up using the same template for different builds. You don't activate the right weapons, and then you're just missing out on weapon damage, which is something you don't want to do. Now, my primary for this build, as I mentioned earlier, is the Bluescreen LMG. Now, if you do not have this, it is in the general loot pool. You can farm for it anywhere the LMG is the targeted loot, or I recommend hitting up the summit or countdown and set your targeted loot to LMGs. Now, the reason this is so effective is because of its talent Disruptor rounds. Shooting an enemy marks that enemy and adds a stack to the agent up to a count of 50. Shooting a marked enemy refreshes the mark and adds stacks to the agent. When you deploy a non-shield skill, you're going to remove all stacks on agent and all marked targets trigger an effect. And as you can see right below that, there's a breakdown of what the effects are going to be, and that is going to be dependent on how many stacks you have at the moment. Now at the very bottom, you can see they say, this effect will trigger immediately if any marked enemy is killed, and to be honest with you, that is how I usually trigger all of the effects on the weapon, is by just taking out NPCs left and right. This thing is an absolute monster. Now, as far as the secondary and sidearm is concerned, it's totally up to you, my friends. You can use whatever weapons you want. Now moving on to the gear itself, you can see we're running 1 Petrov, 1 Cheska, and 4 of the ongoing directive gear set. We're running 4 so we get all of the gear set bonuses. What's up, Reckless Abandon? I'd like to answer right now, buddy, but I'm recording a video. Anyway, we're running 4 so we get all of the gear set bonuses. 2 pieces 15% status effect, 3 pieces 30% reload speed, and 4 pieces rules of engagement. Shooting a status affected enemy will apply a mark. Killing a marked enemy grants a full clip of hollow point ammo for your active weapon and half a clip of the agent's active weapon to the rest of the party. The mark is going to last for 10 seconds, and not only that, the hollow point ammo amplifies weapon damage by 20% and applies bleed on hit. Next, we have the body armor. It is the second piece of ongoing directive, and because we are using that body armor, we do have access to the Talon Parabellum rounds. That is going to increase the hollow point ammo weapon damage amplification to 50%, which obviously is much more than 20%. Next, we have the holster and the knee pads. They are the final 2 pieces of the ongoing directive gear set, and you will notice that on every single piece of gear, I'm trying to stack crit hit chance and crit hit damage everywhere I can. Next, we have the gloves. They are the 1 piece of contractors, the 1 piece of Petrov, which are the contractor's gloves. We're running those. So we do get that 10% LMG damage bonus and that middle attribute 8% damage to armor. Last but not least, we have the Cheska backpack. And as you can see, we're running with the talent Unstoppable Force. Killing an enemy increases total weapon damage by 5% for 15 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. I know another very popular option is Vigilance. It's up to you, my friends. I prefer this one. That's just how I play the game. As far as my skills are concerned, I am using a combination of the Defender drone and the Banshee Pulse. And when we take a look at the numbers, you can see I'm sitting at 48% crit hit chance, 101.6 crit hit damage. Remember, those numbers are going to be dependent on not only the gear I have equipped, but having a Shade Watch of level 1000. Hope this helped you out, my friends, and as always, questions, comments, or feedback, please let me know and I'll do my best to get back to you as quick as I can. Most of you know by now that one of my favorite aspects about putting build videos together here at the channel is the family that we have built. So as always, if you have any recommendations or tips or tricks you want to pass along to new and returning players, please feel free to leave them in the comment section down below, as the main goal is to help out as many people as we can. On that note, I'm going to leave you with some gameplay footage and commentary. As always, I want to take a moment and thank you all for your incredible support. Please let me know of any other questions you have I did not address. Thank you once again for the privilege of your time, and as I mention at the end of every one of these, take care of yourselves, be kind to each other, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks again, everyone. One thing I strongly recommend anytime you're trying out a new build is go to a mission, control point, something in this game where you know the timing. The main reason I say that is because if you can't have a build work when you know exactly where the NPCs are going to be, how they're going to, spawn, things like that, there's no way the build's going to properly perform for you when shit gets sideways randomly in the open world, or if you're doing a mission or, joining a group, whatever it is. And that brings us to why I always tell you, this is just a template. You want to take your time, make a build your own, focus on the armor. You may want more, you may want less. Really take your time, my friends. That's really all I got for this video. Thank you once again for everything, and I will see you in the next one.